we're going to be converting equations from one form to another. We've already talked a little bit about going from slope-intercept form into standard form. We're going to go back and forth between those forms a little bit. We're also going to introduce another form that we've not really worked with yet and convert it into slope-intercept or standard form. So let's take a look at just a simple equation. Let's say that we have y equals 1/4 x plus 3, and we want to put this slope-intercept equation into standard form. So all we need to do is get the x term on the same side of the equal sign as the y term. So I'm going to not do that, sorry. I'm going to subtract 1/4 x from both sides of the equal sign. 1/4 x minus itself is 0x, so we've moved that away. So we have a negative 1/4 x plus y equals 3. Now a couple of things about standard form. Whenever we're writing equations or really anything in our math classes, we try and keep the variables all in alphabetical order, which is why I put the x before the y, even though the y was already on the left side of the equation. Another thing about standard form is that we do not like to have fractions. We really prefer whole numbers. So I'm not going to be able to leave this negative 1/4 in front of the x. So to get rid of that, I'm just going to multiply every term by the denominator. So basically, I'm just going to make this equation jumbo size by multiplying it by 4. So 4 times a negative 1/4, these 4's are going to cancel out, giving us a negative 1x. 4 times a positive y is a positive 4y. And 4 times 3 is positive 12. I don't need to write this 1 right here because 1 is the understood coefficient. It's just like if your mom tells you to go clean your room, she doesn't have to say, you go clean your room. You totally understand who she's talking about, right? So you're understanding that she's talking about you. Whenever we have 1 as a coefficient, we understand that that's the coefficient because if it were anything other than 1, there'd be a number there telling us. We have a 7y, negative 3y, whatever. So the fact that we have a negative 1 in front of this x is kind of redundant. We can just write this as a negative x plus 4y equals 12. This then is the standard form of the equation y equals 1/4 x plus 3. Okay, so there's an example of going from slope-intercept to standard. So let's look at going the other direction, maybe starting in standard form and moving to slope-intercept form. So perhaps this time we have 2x minus 7y equals 10. We want to be in slope-intercept form this time, so we want the y by itself. So I'll start by moving whole terms first, so we'll subtract 2x from both sides. So that leaves us a negative 7y equals negative 2x plus 10. Then we'll divide by the coefficient. So we have y equals, and I can write this as a big old jumbo fraction like this, or I can break it apart. I'm going to break it apart just because I can. So we're going to say negative 2x over negative 7 plus 10 over a negative 7. These negatives would cancel out, and this positive times a negative would just be a negative, so we'll clean it up a little. Y equals 2/7 x minus 10/7. It's fine to have a fraction in slope-intercept form, just not standard form. Okay, So you've kind of worked with both of those a little bit. It probably isn't too big of a deal for you to move those around. It just takes a little bit of practice. But there is a form that we haven't really worked with yet. We'll work with it in an upcoming lesson, and that is point slope form. And point slope form is just, you know, something that looks a little more like this one. So what we're going to do on this particular example is I'm going to start in this form, and I'm actually going to move everything into both slope-intercept and standard form. So let's go ahead and put this in slope-intercept form first. So the first thing I'm going to do is address this distributive property need right here. So the y minus 2, I'm going to leave that alone for a second. But I have 5 times x, which is 5x. And we have 5 times negative 1, which is a negative 5. Then to get y by itself, we'll just need to add 2 to both sides and get all the constant terms on one side of the equation. So we have y equals 5x minus 3. So here's slope-intercept form. All right, now I would like to get into standard form as well. So remember, standard form is just having the x and y values on the same side of the equal sign. So if I keep going and subtract 5x from both sides, I'll end up with a negative 5x plus y equals negative 3. And that is standard form. Okay, so just bouncing around between the different forms. We just want to be able to get things where they need to go. So let's just kind of clarify things a little bit. We've got 3 different forms we're working with. We're working with slope-intercept, and slope-intercept form is y equals mx plus b. We have standard form. Standard form is when the x and y terms are on the same side of the equal sign. So that one looks more like ax plus by equals c. And we have our new form that we just kind of touched on. Don't worry, we'll explain it in a future lesson. And that is point slope form. And that one looks like this crazy thing. I promise, don't worry yet, we'll talk about it later. Y minus y1 equals m times the quantity x minus x1. So for now, you need to be able to move back and forth between slope-intercept and standard form. You also need to be able to take something from point slope and put it in standard and slope-intercept. Okay? Keep working, keep practicing. If you have questions, email me, watch the tutorial again. It'll all make sense with a little bit of effort.